Today, we begin with Demeter, one of the most powerful and beloved goddesses of the ancient Greek world. She was a daughter of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, and like her divine siblings, she narrowly escaped a terrible fate. Cronus, terrified that one of his children would overthrow him, swallowed each child at birth, all except Zeus. When Zeus eventually grew up and freed his brothers and sisters, they fought in the great Titan-O-Maki, a 10-year war that reshaped the cosmos. When the Olympians emerged victorious, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades drew lots to divide the universe. Zeus received the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. The fertile earth, along with sacred Mount Olympus, remained a shared domain, and from this land Demeter was given her sacred role. She became the goddess of grain, agriculture, and the life that springs from the soil. Myths depict Demeter as a benefactor who travelled among mortals, teaching them the essential skills of planting, plowing, and nurturing the earth to grow food. Demeter's most famous child is Persephone, also known as Cora, the maiden. Persephone was born from a union between Zeus and Demeter, a detail that is sometimes hinted to be forceful in tone, though the ancient sources do not describe the scene in detail. Persephone grew up sheltered, surrounded by nymphs and goddesses like Artemis and Athena, gathering flowers in bright meadows. But one day, that innocence shattered. As she reached for a blooming flower, the earth split open and Hades, with Zeus's secret permission, rose from the underworld and carried her away. Persephone cried out, calling for help, but only Helios, the sun, witnessed the abduction. This moment set in motion one of the most important myths in Greek religion, one that explained the seasons, inspired the Eleusinian Mysteries, and shaped ancient beliefs about life, death, and rebirth. The primary ancient source for her story is the Homeric hymn to Demeter, 7th to 6th century BCE, with additional mentions in Hesiod's Theogony and hints in the Iliad. The Homeric hymn to Demeter: I begin to sing of Demeter, the holy goddess with the beautiful hair. And her daughter Persephone too. She was given away by Zeus, the loud thunderer, the one who sees far and wide. From the sorrow of Demeter and Persephone sprang one of the most sacred and enduring religious traditions of the ancient world, the Eleusinian Mysteries. For more than 2,000 years, people from across Greece, and later the Roman world, travelled to Eleusis seeking initiation. These rites, held annually, were held in honour of Demeter and Persephone, and promised not mere ritual blessing, but something far greater, a hope for a blessed afterlife and a release from the fear of death. The mysteries were founded on Demeter's grief. When she learned that Persephone had vanished, Demeter wandered the earth for 9 days, holding burning torches and refusing ambrosia, nectar, and rest. In her sorrow, she withheld her gifts from humanity. Crops failed and famine swept across the world. Only when Zeus intervened, compelled by the cries of starving mortals and by the gods who depended on human worship, was Persephone allowed to return. Yet because she had tasted the food of the dead, the pomegranate seed, she was bound to the underworld for part of each year. Thus the cycle was established. When Persephone returns, the earth blooms. When she descends, winter falls. This cosmic pattern, the descent into darkness and the return to light, lay at the heart of the Eleusinian Mysteries. Beginning around 1500 BCE to its conclusion in 396 CE, people from across Greece, and later the Roman world, travelled to Eleusis, seeking initiation. The mysteries were open to all who had not committed unatoned murder, including men and women, making them a pan-Hellenic and later Roman-era institution that transcended social boundaries. For its participants, the emotional and spiritual experience offered a personal transformation and a profound hope for a better life after death than the otherwise bleak existence envisioned by traditional Greek religion. The Mysteries took place in late September, over a 10-day festival. Initiates, known as Mysti, were first initiated in the Lesser Mysteries early in the year, which was held at Agrae, near Athens. They underwent ritual purification, fasting, and were prepared to receive divine knowledge at the Greater Mysteries in autumn. During the Greater Mysteries, the initiates walked from Athens to Eleusis along the sacred way, carrying torches, chanting sacred cries, and reenacting Demeter's search. They were guided by the Mystagogos, who were fully initiated Mysti. Upon reaching Eleusis, they drank the kykion, a fermented barley, mint and honey brew, breaking their ritual fast. Ancient speculation suggests this drink may have contained naturally occurring psychoactive substances. However, certainty eludes scholars due to the strict vow of secrecy that protected the rites. Inside the Great Hall, the telesterion, initiates did not receive doctrine, but experience. Aristotle wrote that they did not learn something, they were made to feel and undergo transformation. The procession began with the dromena, meaning things done, a dramatic, experiential reenactment of the core Demeter and Persephone myth. The performance mirrored Demeter's grief and frantic, torch-lit search for her daughter, Persephone. Initiates, having already participated in a torch-lit procession and a period of fasting, would have experienced feelings of panic, disorientation, and profound sadness, heightened by the dark, crowded environment of the telesterion. In darkness, they encountered terror and confusion, symbolizing descent into the unknown, perhaps even into death itself. Then, suddenly, a blaze of light erupted. Sacred objects, dikenoumena, were revealed, and a sacred drama unfolded. Despair became revelation. Darkness gave way to light. Death was answered by rebirth, and finally accompanied by commentaries known as the legomena, which means things said. For initiates, this was not symbolic alone, it was a promise. A life touched by Demeter's rites would not end in darkness. These rites were guarded by an oath so sacred that revealing them was punishable by death. The playwright Aeschylus was once attacked by an enraged crowd on suspicion he had revealed Eleusinian secrets. He escaped only by claiming ignorance and by his reputation as a war hero. Though fragments survive, the torch-lit procession, the kykion, the dramatic reenactment, the sacred revelation, the heart of the mysteries remains veiled. Their power lay not in scripture, but in experience, in transformation, and in the shared understanding that life and death form a continuous cycle. This was the gift of Demeter, not only harvests and grain, but hope beyond mortality. Those who emerged from the telesterion spoke, when allowed, only in metaphors of hope and serenity. Plutarch, himself an initiate, described the mysteries as passing from wandering and sorrow into a wondrous light, beholding meadows, pure air, and sacred visions that gave the soul peace. During Demeter's long search for Persephone, she arrived at the land of Eleusis, disguised as a weary old woman. In her grief, she sat beside the maiden well, a quiet place where the women of the town drew their water. It was there that the daughters of King Celeus and Queen Metaneira found her. Their names were Callidice, Clesidice, Demo, and Callithoe. Seeing her sorrow and frailty, the young princesses approached her with compassion. When they asked who she was, Demeter gave them a gentle falsehood, calling herself Doso,
a wanderer from Crete who had escaped from pirates and sought a home in which to serve. Moved by pity, the girls led her to the palace of their parents. Queen Metaneira welcomed the mysterious old woman and entrusted her sons, Demophon and Triptolemus, to her care. Demeter refused the customary wine and instead asked for a simple drink of barley, water, and pennyroyal mint, the sacred kykeon, which would one day become central to her mysteries. Grateful for their hospitality, Demeter, seeing that Demophon was unwell, sought to reward the family in the most extraordinary way. She began a secret rite to make Demophon immortal. Each night she anointed the child with ambrosia, and each night she placed him in the hearth's sacred fire to burn away his mortal nature. Under her divine care, the child flourished beyond all expectation. But one night, the queen watched in fear as her son lay within the flames. Her cry shattered the ritual. Demeter, revealed in sudden radiant glory, lifted the child from the fire and rebuked Metaneira for her human fear. Had she not been interrupted, Demophon would have lived forever. Now appearing openly in her divine form, Demeter commanded the people of Eleusis to build her a great temple and altar. Demeter also chose the eldest child of the royal family, Triptolemus, to become her emissary. To him she entrusted the divine knowledge of agriculture, the sowing of seed, the plowing of fields, and the harvesting of grain. She placed him upon a chariot drawn by winged serpents and sent him across the world to teach humankind the secret of cultivation. Through Triptolemus, Demeter's gift transformed the world, turning wandering tribes into settled communities and laying the foundation for civilization. And through her mysteries, revealed first at Eleusis, she offered hope, not only in life, but beyond death itself.
Beyond Persephone, ancient tradition names several other children born of Demeter, each reflecting a different aspect of her divine influence. The Mistress. According to the writer Pausanias in his description of Greece, 2nd century CE, Demeter was being pursued by her brother Poseidon while she was searching for Persephone. To escape his advances, she transformed into a mare and hid among a herd of horses in Arcadia. Poseidon, however, saw through her disguise, turned into a stallion, and violated her in horse form. From this forceful union came a daughter known only as Despoina, the fraternal twin of the mystical horse Arion. She was a mysterious goddess in ancient Greek mythology, primarily associated with the Arcadian and Eleusinian mysteries. She was the daughter of Demeter and Poseidon, and Despoina, meaning the mistress, is an epithet, and her true name was never to be revealed, except to those initiated into her mysteries. In essence, Despoina was the focal point of an older, geographically isolated mystery tradition in Arcadia, while her characteristics and title is also associated with Eleusinian mysteries. She had more of a prominence in the Arcadian mysteries, which were both similar. In the isolated region of Arcadia, Despoina's cult was a highly significant, regional mystery religion centered at her sanctuary in Lycosura. Unlike the Eleusinian mysteries, where Demeter and Persephone shared the stage, in Arcadia, Despoina may have taken precedence over her mother Demeter. The Arcadian mystery myth centered on the forceful union of Demeter in the form of a mare and Poseidon as a stallion, which produced Despoina and the magical horse Arion. Demeter, enraged by the violation, hid in a cave, earning the epithet Erinis, meaning raging, and later Melena, meaning black, shrouded in dark robes and sorrow. The god Pan, while roaming the mountains, came across goddess hiding in a cave on Mount Eleos, saw her in a state of mourning, and reported her location, which allowed Zeus to send the Moirai, the Fates, to Demeter, who eased her wrath and grief. Despoina's actual name was considered so sacred, it was revealed only to those initiated into her specific mysteries and has been lost to history. The title Despoina means the mistress or lady. Other goddess who shared this epithet is Artemis, HEKATE, and Persephone. The Arcadian rites included distinct practices, such as a unique, potentially barbaric form of animal sacrifice, where a limb was chopped off the victim rather than its throat being cut, and processions featuring participants wearing animal, horse, ram, cow, masks. Despoina was possibly a goddess associated with animals instead of agriculture and plants like Demeter and Persephone. At her sanctuary in Lycosura, a massive sculptural group depicted Demeter and Despoina enthroned together, with Demeter's hand on Despoina's shoulder and Despoina holding a staff and the sacred kista, a box containing secret objects, marking her sovereignty over the sanctuary. Over time, particularly in later Hellenistic and Roman periods, Despoina was largely conflated with Persephone/Kore, Demeter's daughter by Zeus. The two queens of the Eleusinian Mysteries, Demeter and Persephone, were sometimes jointly referred to by the plural title Despoinae, mistresses, at sanctuaries like Olympia. The Eleusinian Mysteries shared thematic similarities with the Arcadian cult, such as an emphasis on an underworld goddess, secrecy, and a cycle of death and rebirth. The Megaron Hall at Lycosura was similar in design to the Telesterion at Eleusis, hinting at a shared ancient heritage of mystery rites. The Homeric hymn to Demeter refers to Persephone as the maiden whose name may not be spoken in certain contexts, a naming taboo that mirrored the treatment of Despoina's true name in Arcadia. Beside Despoina stood her twin brother Arion, the immortal horse, swift, powerful, and in some accounts able to speak. Orion would later appear in heroic tales, ridden by Heracles and then by Adrastus in the War of the Seven against Thebes. He served as a reminder that even the gentlest gods contain wildness, and that in older layers of myth, gods moved not only in fields of wheat, but in the untamed rhythms of the natural world.
The regional Arcadian mythology also named Demeter as the mother of Artemis, sometimes in combination with the god Poseidon. Although most myths identify Artemis as the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and twin sister of Apollo.
Demeter's power was felt in every field, every granary, and every harvest. To the ancients, she was not simply a goddess among others. She was the provider of life, the one who turned barren soil into nourishment and ensured that grain rose each year to feed the world. Yet her influence reached beyond the physical harvest. Through agriculture came settlement, and through settlement came law, culture, and community. For this reason, Demeter was revered not only as the mother of grain, but as a founder of civilization itself, the divine force who ushered humanity from wandering hunger into ordered life. Her realm also touched the mysteries of existence, birth, growth, loss, and renewal. Through Persephone, she became a guide to understanding death and what lies beyond, connecting earthly cycles to spiritual ones. Where seeds sleep beneath winter soil and rise again in spring, the ancient world saw her sacred presence. Epithets, names of honor and essence. Across Greek lands, Demeter was known by many titles, each offering a glimpse into how she was understood and worshipped. Ceto, she of the grain, source of daily sustenance. Thesmophoros, bringer of law, giver of order and sacred customs. Chloe, green shoots, celebrating the first tender growth of spring. Karpophoros, bearer of fruit, guardian of ripening bounty. Anasidora, she who sends up gifts, pouring life from below the earth. Chthoniya, of the earth's depths linked to burial, roots, and the underworld. Megala Meter, Great Mother, universal and enduring. Chrysaoros, Lady of the Golden Blade, the sickle that brings harvest. Erinis and Melina, the Furious and the Black One, titles recalling grief and wrath in Arcadia. Through these names we see Demeter's full nature, not only gentle nurturer, but sovereign, judge, and guardian of sacred cycles. Until next time, may the tales of ancient myth continue to captivate and inspire. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.